Lakeside.
You know, Alex.
Good evening, good folks, and welcome to our City of Muskegon City Commission General Session for this Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. Before we launch into our Pledge of Allegiance, our prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, and then get to roll call and get on with the business, I do want to share, if you do wish to speak during public comment, we have two opportunities for public comment. One at the very beginning of the meeting on any agenda item, and another opportunity at the end of the meeting, and that's general public comment. We do have forms in the back of the room. I encourage you to complete that form and give that to our clerk, Mish, down at the end. Please fill it out, inclusive of your name and address and what topic you're wishing to speak on. If it's an agenda item, I will not reveal or ask you to share your home address at the podium, but we do need it for our records. Do ask for you to remain respectful in your comments, and also from the audience throughout our conduct of business. So, I don't think we don't have a pastor in the house, do we? I don't have a note.
Moment of silence.
Hey, well, we're just gonna do a moment of silence tonight, and select as you wish, and then followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So we will stand for that if you're so willing to join us and able. We'll stand for that moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Hood,
Here.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Here.
Vice Mayor German, absent. Commissioner Gorman,
Here.
Commissioner Emery,
Here.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Here.
Mayor Johnson.
Here. Thank you. Commissioners, you've had an opportunity to review the consent agenda. Are there any items that you wish to have removed for separate consideration? And well, we don't have any public comment. I haven't received, thank you, legal counsel, just to be sure, haven't received any forms for public comment on agenda items, but I just want to double check that the folks in the room do not wish to speak on any items. All right. We're going to move on to our consent agenda. Commissioners, are there any items that you wish to have removed from consent agenda for separate vote and consideration? I will give you one moment because I just see Miss Coleman arrive. Miss Coleman, do you wish to speak on any of our agenda items before we vote?
Well, I want to speak about the board. I heard.
Okay, that's probably going to be general comment at the end of the meeting then.
Yeah, so I
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if you could complete one of those forms and hand that to our clerk, we would appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vina. All right, Commissioners, and any items that you wish to have removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration and vote? Commissioner Emery.
Item D and E.
Commissioners, are there any others? I would ask that G also be removed. So if there are no others, I would entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented minus items D, E, and G.
Motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented minus items. What are they?
D, E, and D.
D, E, and G.
Support.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Gorman, to accept the consent agenda minus items D, E, and G. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Item D, Commissioner Emery, combination sewer truck.
Okay, never mind. Found it. I move to authorize the purchase of a new 900 ECO combination sewer truck from Frederickson Supply in the amount of $565,000. No, $555,555,000.
Support.
All right. We have a motion by Commissioner Emery, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, to authorize the purchase of a new 900 ECO combination sewer truck from Frederickson Supply in the amount of $565,555.00. All right. Commissioner Emery.
Director Evans. I saw that there's a huge difference between the purchase price and the amount budgeted, and I just wondered why.
Yep, I can say when we established the budget in April, we had envisioned financing for this vehicle, and we had budgeted, I want to say, $107,000 essentially for the first year's payment, looking at financing that over 5 years. In that time since then, just the financing rates have kind of flip-flopped on us, and we're just reevaluating if it still makes sense to pursue that as a route, or if we're in a position to reforecast and pay cash for this asset.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah. Will we be saving a lot of money paying cash? What are the impacts and or not the difference between the two?
I think the preliminary numbers we got were for interest rates close to 7%. So, on a $500,000 piece of equipment for 5 years, it worked out to like $80,000 or $90,000 in interest payments over that 5 years. I think the question for us was just to take a little closer look at our cash in bank within the equipment fund to see if we could support that without, impacting too many other needs within the city.
Awesome.
And like I said, it is a year out just from this date, so we wouldn't have to make any payments for a year anyways. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, any other questions or comments on this item? All right. Thank you, Director Evans. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Emery. Item E, Parks Donation Policy.
Yes. Again, I can't find the motion on here. On here?
Page 3.
The motion is to approve the donation policy for city parks.
Oh, I see it. Okay, thank you. Okay, I move to approve the donation policy for city parks.
Support.
We have a motion by Commissioner Emery, supported by Commissioner St. Clair, to approve the donation policy for city parks. Commissioner Emery.
Director Evans. On page 236 of our agenda, or our packet, it was brought to my attention a paragraph there that says, and I'll read it so that people in the audience know what it says. Donation requests that are approved for locations within the Lakeside, Glenside, Beechwood, Bluffton neighborhoods will be charged double the actual cost as outlined above. The additional proceeds generated will be used to provide matching amenities to parks in other areas of the city that have not traditionally received as high of demand for donations. Can you explain that, please?
I can. It was really driven by one item in particular. We currently have 75 people on a waiting list to donate a bench. Every one of those requests is to donate a bench at or near Lake Michigan frontage. We currently have 0 available spaces to accommodate any of those requests, nor would we as a Parks Department recommend adding more benches just to add more benches. We're trying to drive down that demand and then also increase offerings in other areas because we currently have no one on a waiting list to donate a bench anywhere else in the city. It is really geared specifically towards benches. I know it was written a little bit more broadly than that, and that could probably be revised to maybe focus in a little bit more on that one particular instance that we have. So,
Can you please revise it then to say benches?
So
I've gotten a lot of,
we have revised language. Well, I was speaking with Director Evans earlier today, back and forth about potential tweaks, and the most recent iteration that he suggested, unless you further revised it, the most recent iteration he suggested is to replace that paragraph with Type 1 donation requests, which are the benches. Type 1 donation requests that are approved for locations within the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood will be charged double the actual cost as outlined above. The additional proceeds generated will be used to provide matching amenities to parks in other areas of the city that have not traditionally received as high a demand for donations. So it's really honing in specifically on the issue at hand, which is our Lake Michigan area, coastal area parks that have such high demand for benches and not enough places to put them.
right?
Yeah.
Good, that sounds good. Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome.
we're going to need to amend this motion though, because it's not reflected in the current policy. If you guys are okay with that language, then we're going to need an amendment to reflect that language. Commissioner Hood.
Can you repeat the language, please?
It is Type 1 donation requests, so Type 1 is the benches. Type 1 donation requests that are approved for locations within the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood will be charged double the actual cost as outlined above. Now this is the parks within Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood. The additional proceeds generated will be used to provide matching amenities to parks and other areas of the city that have not traditionally received as high of demand for donations.
So, this is dealing just with the benches. And so, excess donations would be considered for other parks within the city. Okay.
I'm sorry, could you?
So, the access of park benches would be considered to go in other parks throughout the city that needs them.
Yeah. So essentially, and my understanding, you feel free to clarify, Director Evans, but my understanding of this proposed language, revised language, would essentially say when you're buying a bench for a Lake Michigan Park or, Cruise Park, Pure Marquette Park, Margaret Dick Elliott Park, Harbortown Park, when you're buying a bench for those parks or Beechwood Park, if you're buying a bench for those parks, you're also buying a bench for one of our other neighborhood parks. That's essentially
That's
the gist
exactly
of
it.
how I understand it.
Yep, that's the intent.
Yep, thank you, Mayor.
So, Commissioner's thoughts on that language?
Sounds good.
All right. Is it language you guys want adopted into it? If so, we're going to need an amendment to have that language be reflected in lieu of the existing language.
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner Ramsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I personally don't have any reflection on the language chosen. I'm not a wordsmith. Director Evans, does this language work well for its purposes? For
Yes,
being
yeah,
staff?
it definitely was something that we hadn't conceived. We were trying to get at this narrow point, and we did it in a little bit too broad a way in that first draft. So this will
yes.
amend that. Yeah,
Awesome.
We're supportive of it.
Mr. Schreier, can we just do, what is it, a friendly amendment? Do we
Friendly
have to
amendments
do
or more formal?
Yeah. Would you like a?
Friendly
To make it
amendment
friendly.
will work. Yes.
And that was supported by Commissioner St. Clair. You accept the friendly amendment? Okay. So there's a friendly amendment, so that the clerk has this down properly. Under donation costs within the policy, the fifth paragraph, where it begins donation requests that are approved for locations within, that paragraph is being supplanted with type 1 donation requests that are approved for locations within parks of the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood will be charged double the actual cost as outlined above. The additional proceeds generated will be used to provide matching amenities to parks and other areas of the city that have not traditionally received as high of demand for donations. All right. So that is a friendly amendment. It has been accepted and incorporated into this. All right. Do we have any further discussion, questions, concerns about this policy?
I did have a question.
Yes, Commissioner Gorman.
Director Evans, just under the donation term section about donors being encouraged to partner with the community foundation, about establishing a perpetual care fund. Is that purposely, are they encouraged to partner, or do we want to require that, or can we not require that?
I think we didn't need it to be required.
Okay.
It was something that came out of the work session discussion. Was, if you intend this gift to be in perpetuity, we aren't really the ones that want to facilitate that. We want you to partner with the community foundation to, ensure that that takes place.
So then, as it stands now, I mean, if we have like a bench right now and there's damage and there's not funds, how do I say it? If something was damaged now and we didn't have funds or a family to locate that had originally made that donation, does that property just then
If
be
we're
taken
unable,
care of the best the city thinks is the best? I just don't want to be caught in a situation where it's like a family donated something happened, they're not around, we have ghosts following us because we got rid of somebody's bench, and
No.
but we don't have great records of who
Okay.
donated anything that's out there today, and who the successor of
Yeah.
that donation may be. So our intent is, as something that's out there today is damaged and
Okay.
needs replacement, we're going to do our best to track down
Okay.
that person, a successor, whoever that is. If we do fail and are unable to do that, then we would likely offer that location to somebody
Okay.
else that maybe wants a bench.
Okay, thank you. I really asked that just so we're all clear. I want to be respectful of the intentions of these donations and make sure we're covering the best we can.
Commissioner Ramsey.
How much does a bench cost?
Just to purchase the bench alone
No,
is
no,
around
like-
$1,200.
But if I wanted to buy a bench to make a donation, how much does a bench cost for a neighbor to buy?
I would say it's probably in the range of $2,500 by the time you pour a concrete pad, buy the bench, time and materials to install it.
Awesome. To further cosign what Commissioner Gorman was saying, I would really appreciate it if in the literature that we have, that we share with people who are looking to purchase benches and have them be a space in perpetuity, for their loved one or whatever the case may be. For me, for Michael Ramsey, if I always want there to be a Michael Ramsey bench, I would love for us to be able to advise the people who are making said donation about the foundation and strongly encourage them. So clear language and some sort of document that says, hey, if you don't ever want to get caught up in your bench is damaged and it's gone now, go through the community foundation. This is how we do that. Just very intentional is all I'm asking. And then yeah.
Did you have something, Commissioner? Cynthia?
I'm just reading here. Donors are encouraged to partner with the Community Foundation to establish a perpetual care fund for donations that are intended to exist in perpetuity. The Parks and Recreation Director should be consulted in these decisions. Donations provide with a perpetual care fund will be considered automatically at the end of the original and any subsequent term. So I think, are you looking for more than that? Than what they have in here? In the policy?
No. No. I just want to make sure that is not just something that's in a policy document that no one, including us, ever reads, but that that message is shared with our would-be donors, eh?
Yep.
Gotcha.
We
Because
present that
otherwise,
option.
I'm not going to read that.
So
Me,
you don't
Michael
have-
Ramsey, city commissioner. I'm not reading that if I'm trying to buy a bench for my, whatever. So just to make sure that it's covered, people understand what they're getting into.
And you mentioned earlier, so we talked about changing that one language with regard to the benches and, if you're purchasing one in one particular area, that it's going to be a higher cost that then benefits another bench elsewhere. And part of the reasoning is because we've got such an extensive wait list for the Beechwood Bluffton neighborhood area, those parks in that area. 75. Did you say 75?
I believe that was the last I knew. We had 75 on a waiting list.
So we have 75 interested in purchasing benches. Will they be grandfathered in under the prior policy?
No, they would be subject to this new policy. We don't have any spaces to offer them, so when a new space becomes available, we would likely go to the top of that list and say, here's an opportunity. Would you like to take this? And work our way down from there.
Okay. But presently, it's kind of a moot point because we don't have any spaces.
Correct.
We've already put a ton of benches over in that area as well.
There's a lot of benches out there. I don't know that we have an accurate count, but the channel is all lined with benches. The park, the roundabout's got 12 around it. There's a lot.
But that project that you brought forward to last night, that update
Yes.
on the boardwalk or the new shared use pathway, that could be an area that could potentially get more benches.
Yes, there are a few there now that we anticipated to relocate with that project, but I do believe that project envisioned a few extra spaces being created too. So those could be some of the first ones.
Okay. Gotcha. Commissioners, any other questions or concerns on any aspects of this policy? Can you help me understand, Director Evans, the what you're envisioning with regard to donation item 4, where we're trying to develop a comprehensive park brochure and would be welcoming any level of monetary donations, and then in which case we'd recognize them in that brochure itself, so anybody could donate any dollar amount and they would be named in the brochure?
Yeah, I can. I would actually invite Matt up for that. That was a carryover idea that he brought here from his time at the state park. They had undertaken a similar endeavor for the state parks on a statewide basis. So
Okay.
we thought it was a novel idea that maybe had some merit to explore.
Okay. Thank you. Welcome, Park Supervisor Schwemmer.
for having me.
Yeah, how are you?
Good, good. So yeah, the idea behind some of the donations overall, we're trying to give various price points. We were trying to recognize that, everybody has different needs, and we wanted to provide an option for all those needs. The fourth thought that we had there was a brochure rack card, and kind of more or less focusing on to start 4 different parks that we are going to choose from the west to the east and kind of highlight those. With that, we also wanted to come up with some way to recognize those that donated to that. It'll probably take anywhere from $500 to $1,000 to start that program at its base and then work off of that. And so we wanted to come up with a way where somebody could donate anything from $5 to $10 towards this to start the program and then to continue with adding parks to it. But we wanted to still have that memorial aspect added to it. So trying to come up with a way to, in memory of this person or that person, but to your point, putting 75 names on a brochure, then you lose everything else, right, with the brochure. So we would have to come up with a way to recognize somebody, but also those with the rat cards talk a little bit about history and different things that make the park special. So that was kind of the thought process with that.
Okay, so yeah, how do we square that? I suppose the potential. Commissioner St. Clair?
Suggestion, perhaps a link to a website that lists all of the donor names rather than having them on the actual card themselves. You could say something like, this card was made possible by the support of
Yep.
our community. You can find more at blah blah.
Yeah.
That might be an elegant solution.
We were kind of still discussing what would be the best way to get the information out on who donated that, whether it be a plaque in that park, or on the card itself, or electronically. We just realized that not everybody has the capability of always necessarily being on electronics, so we thought, well, what's another way, or maybe not choosing to be on electronics. That's just the parks guy.
Kind of a pie in the sky, but eventually, as we're building out our parks and our Parks and Recreation Department, and then by extension, investing more in our parks itself, I would love us to get to a point where not only do we have pavilions at all of our parks or all of our sizable parks. Maybe we don't need a pavilion at the tiniest tot lot, but pavilions at our major parks have Wi-Fi at all of our parks, and then also have digital informational screens at our parks too. That you could have a scrolling, thanks to, brought to, sponsored by, supported by, scrolling that while we're also presenting other information not only about the parks but city services, city meetings, and helping to inform just generally about another conduit to our community about the city. But that's just a
Sure. Yeah.
speak it, believe it to make it happen. But
Absolutely.
that's more of a pie in the, something to potentially do down the road as resources become available. But in terms of accepting donations and incurring donations, I'm all about welcoming others to partner with us and bring their resources to bear to help improve our park system in general. So I appreciate the impetus behind it. Commissioner Gorman.
Not so much about the policy, and I apologize, maybe I should know this. Do we actively promote these donation opportunities right now, or essentially do we have the demand of people wanting to do named benches that drives the activity we have right now?
I would say kind of how it all started was the good work that went in with the traffic circle over at the Pure Marquette Beach, and I think it just kind of naturally became this big advertisement of, wow, look at what we can do. And I think before I even got here, that's kind of where the program started, and it had great intentions. But again, to kind of have a list of 75 folks and say, well, I might get to it in 3 months, I might get to it in 10 years, this doesn't provide a real good service in my opinion. So that's kind of where this all started from.
Well, when we have a newsletter someday, again, I'd love to, putting on my nonprofit hat here, I'd love to have a conversation with staff about the opportunities here to help support parks, but also, again, I think our friends with the West Michigan Shoreline Regional Development Commission, they've been doing so much work with GIS in some cemeteries in our area. I think taking inventory of the trees we have named right now, the benches we have, would be a great way to just like build the awareness of what we have, making sure we honor it. When we walked into the joint meeting with Muskegon Public Schools, Commissioner Emery showed us a tree that she had donated, and so I just think it's so cool, and I think this is a really unique way our residents participate in their city, and anything we can do to help support you all supporting them, I think is great.
Here. Commissioner Ramsey.
I would encourage that the sentiment that Commissioner Gorman just shared be taken into the search and the list of things to do after we choose a new director of Parks and Rec moving forward, and that maybe we get to have a special session afterward to learn about the parks and opportunities and things like that whenever DPW is ready for that. Because obviously there's a lot of fire on the, myself included, to get that done. I would also really like to hear more about the screens that the mayor spoke about with just my floating face on them. That says like "Welcome to my park" or something like that would be great. So if you could prepare that as well, we'd all be interested in seeing that. I know that Commissioner Hood really wants my floating face out there on every park screen. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. You got a retort, Commissioner Hood?
It's Tuesday. We're going to talk about it. Let's talk about all of it.
All right. Commissioners, any other questions or comments or concerns you wish to share or address right now? No? All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Schwemmen, for your work on this policy, and thank you, Director Evans, as well. I appreciate this, and the Commission does. And we had this at a work session previously. We discussed it and gave you some input, and you went back and revised it and tweaked it and made it better. And we're even making it better on the fly here tonight, based upon some of the input and questions we've received from the community and that we've then relayed to you, our staff. So we appreciate you all. Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else, we're going to move on with roll call.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery,
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes,
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey.
Yes.
Motion passes.
thank you. Item G. Would a commissioner... So, can it be held to the end of the meeting?
No, take your mask down when you're talking, because it comes through garble.
All right, thank you for that comment. Commissioner St. Clair.
I move to approve staff to purchase 10 sets of firefighting turnout gear from MES of Sanford, Michigan.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner St. Clair, supported by Commissioner Ramsey, to approve staff to purchase 10 sets of firefighting turnout gear from MES of Sanford, Michigan. So, would you like to lead out? I'm because I asked for it to be pulled, but I'm welcome for you to lead out, Commissioner St. Clair. Since it's your motion.
Questions?
No, okay. So I do have the question. So thank you, Commissioner St. Clair, for making that motion. I had to ask for it to be pulled out. I was just wondering, because we're looking to purchase 10 sets of firefighting turnout gear here, and part of the motivation is that our current sets are worn and contain PFAS material, so it's a potential hazard to our firefighters. And so I'm just wondering, we have more than 10 firefighters. Is this bringing us whole in terms of all of our firefighters? Have we already replaced some? Are we needing to replace others? What's the timeline for that? Should we just go ahead and approve the full replacement now, or can you give me insights as to where we're at with this?
I think it's a very good question. We'll just go back a little bit. Last year we budgeted for 4 for fiscal year, and we didn't take possession of those until this fiscal year, so everything's behind a little bit. What we're trying to do is we're trying to predict for the equipment that we have, especially with the aging. We only have a 5-year shelf life on ours, to include also the issue with the PFAS right now. So it's trying to get our firefighters set right now. So I think we'll be coming back and asking for more. Our contact with NFPA states that right now we're okay, even with the PFAS situation within that, as long as we're not rolling around and keeping the fire gear on us after an event. So we're just trying to manage that, especially with the price on these, and that's why we only asked for 10 at this time. Hopeful that we can get them soon too.
Okay. Thank you for that additional context, but we are, as part of our, I guess, long-term asset management, planning on fully replacing them as the supplies and resources are available to do so.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah, a quick question. If we buy more, do we get a better price break? Should we be buying more, Chief?
The pricing right now that we're getting is we're actually lumping in with Grand Rapids Fire Department's purchase. So that's why we're getting a good price, is because there's a lot bigger. So the price we're getting right now is actually the best price we can get.
So it's never going to get any better. All right, then.
In that regard, if it's the best price we're going to get, do you have a question? Or were you about to say something, Commissioner Emery?
The same thing
Go
you're
ahead,
going to
Commissioner
say.
Emery, take it away.
If in that regard, then if this is the best price we can get, why are we not ordering more for the better price? Because next year it might be something totally different.
I think in analyzing the equipment that we have and what the NFPA states is that we believe that we're going to be able to still get another year or two of shelf life out of what we already have. So why make the expenditure right now? Just trying to make sure that we're fiscally responsible with these orders and making sure that our firefighters are safe on the same end.
That's the important part. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So do you feel confident in that regard? You're confident in that regard. The National Fighters Protection Agency or Association
Yes.
is confident in that regard. Because that is, of course, we want to be fiscally prudent, but also the safety of our personnel is paramount, which I trust is the case for you as well as our public safety
Correct.
director.
Correct.
But it's always
I
good for us
appreciate it.
to
Don't get me wrong.
reinforce this.
If we could spend the money, I would, but let's be prudent on what we're doing. Our firefighters have 2 sets per standards, so that if we do have a fire, we take care of it. We wash them down, we dry. We have that second set to be able to go right into. So we're just trying to maintain the equipment that we have with the shelf life, that 5-year turnover. So I think right now the plan that Deputy Director Paulson has put into place is a good plan, and we'll stick with that, and we'll plan accordingly for next budget cycle.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioner Ramsey, did you have anything additional?
Nope. I wanted to hear that question in those words, so that we all knew that was that.
All right. Any other questions or comments from our commission? No? All right. Thank you. Director Kozel. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Emery?
Yes.
Commissioner St. Clair?
Yes.
Mayor Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hurd?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey?
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next up, new business. Ordinance amendment. Well, kind of new business. This came to us before. We returned it to the Planning Commission for a little tweaking, and now it's back to us. The ordinance amendment for reduced housing unit size minimums. So we may proceed with this item and hear from the staff report. Can I get a motion?
Okay. Motion to approve the request to amend section 2319 of the zoning ordinance to reduce the minimum size requirement for single-family houses, row homes, duplexes, and small multiplexes up to 6 units from 850 square feet of floor area to 550 square feet total, and to change the minimum size requirements for large multiplexes, 6 units and above, mixed-use buildings, and accessory dwelling units from 650 feet of floor area to 650 square feet of floor area to 375 square feet total.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Ramsey, supported by Commissioner Hood. It was a long one, so I'm not going to repeat it.
So much reading.
But, yes, Commissioner Ramsey. So we begin, or Mr. Franzik, if you wish to give us a staff report, an update as to how this has proceeded since it's returned to the Planning Commission and now back to us.
Sure. So this was going to go to the August 23rd City Commission meeting. I wasn't here that night, but I did watch the video and talk to some of my colleagues. We had decided to pull it from the agenda that night and bring it back to Planning Commission because we did hear some concerns about some of the language, so we wanted to correct that and tighten it up. Also listen to some of the language at the Planning Commission meeting. So what we did is we made a few tweaks. We amended the language to require an additional 100 square feet for each additional bedroom. We also put additional language in there stating that all units located in single-family residential districts must comply with Section 400 of the zoning ordinance, which will prevent any single-family houses from being split into additional units. We already would not interpret it that way, but we just wanted to make it extra clear when somebody's reading the ordinance to know that you cannot do that. We also are going away from the definition of floor area, which is defined, it's written in here, but it's really taking out stairwells and closet space and things like that. So we wanted to make a note that we're not measuring that way, but we are just measuring by the outside walls of the house as proposed on the site plan. This came about because of the goals set forth by the commission. Goal 2 was economic development, housing and business, diverse housing types. 2.3 talks about increase of variety in housing types the commission wanted to see. And 2.4 talked about develop subsidies to improve housing affordability. We met as a staff to go over options for that, and we believe this is our best chance forward right now to help combat high prices and also give another option for people who maybe moving out of an apartment and not needing that big of a house. I do want to reiterate that these are just minimums, and oftentimes when we're amending language, it can be easy to lose the fact that this is simply the lowest somebody can go, and this is not something we should expect to see in every single house. We rezoned Nelson a few years ago to allow for many different housing types. Mostly single family went in there. We have the option to do that, but we know that's not always going to play out as such. So this is just another ability for people to have a smaller type house. If you want a 1-bedroom, it could be 550 square feet. If you wanted a 2-bedroom, that would have to be 650 square feet, 750 for a 3-bedroom. And we spoke a little bit about at the last meeting how this is not going to look very much different from the front of the houses. We have many homes on 33-foot wide lots that look exactly the same. They just don't go back as far. So really, you can only tell if you're looking from an alley or from an aerial view. So it really shouldn't do much of the character of their neighborhood. It's just providing more people with flexible options for housing types.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Franzik. Commissioner Ramsey.
Yeah, I also want to thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also want to say thank you, Mr. Franzik, and to you and your team. And what you said at the very end of your statement really is the highlight, is that I would like our neighbors to understand that this is providing so much more opportunity for our neighbors and would-be neighbors to have more housing options that are real and relevant to their life situations, and we're excited for that. We want to make sure that as we continue to address the housing crisis that has befallen our community, and every community across America, let's not get it twisted, but here we can do something about it, and quickly, clearly, that this is a great step in the right direction. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank you, Mr. Dusendang, for the phone call conversations that we've literally had, hey, we could probably build something, Michael, if we could make it a little bit smaller. We could make it a little bit cheaper, and not cheaper as in like cheaper, but less expensive to build, therefore less expensive to rent and or sell. And it would address some of those issues that you guys are talking about. And also, as someone ages in place, it allows for more of that. And so I encourage all of our neighbors to call and ask questions and to follow up and to have a better understanding of what this means and the additional opportunities it will allow for more neighbors. Thank you, Mike.
Indeed. Thank you, Commissioner Ramsey. Commissioners, any other questions or comments on this item? All right. Thank you. I would basically just say ditto to what Commissioner Ramsey said. It is important that we are expanding and increasing housing options and improving affordability as well. It's something that we've talked about over the years, and so I'm glad we're making the progress in terms of reducing the minimum square footage sizes and also accommodating allowing studio apartments, which is not currently a possibility. So I'm happy to see these changes for sure. And one thing I like is that it enables someone that maybe it's just a single person or a couple to build something small that fits just what their needs are currently. And as their family and their capital grows over time, that allows them to add on and expand and build a larger home. And so this isn't requiring people to build small homes. This is just creating an opportunity for people to build smaller if they so choose. And that's what fits their lives and living conditions at that time, with the opportunity to expand and grow as well. So I appreciate the work that you've done and your team have done on this and bringing this forward. And exciting to see this get implemented as well in new housing coming online. And so since we were absent one member of the commission, so even if this is unanimously approved tonight, it is going to come back for a second vote to the commission. And so we'll see this come back to us in 2 weeks for a second reading and vote. So unless there are any other questions or comments, additionally at this time, we're going to go to roll call. All right, roll call, please.
Commissioner St. Clair,
Yes.
Mayor Johnson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hood,
Yes.
Commissioner Ramsey,
Yes.
Commissioner Gorman,
Yes.
Commissioner Emery.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Did you get all the votes?
Yeah, motion passes. I didn't say that.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
I know you were being pulled away. Your
No,
attention
I'm
was being
sorry,
pulled
yeah,
away.
motion passes.
I just want to make sure. I wasn't certain that I had voted, so I was
Yep.
like, did you call me and count us all? Okay.
Yes, you're all marked down.
All right, we are all voted 6-0. This will come back at our next meeting for a second reading and vote. All right, commissioners, is there any other business that you wish to bring up at this time? No. All right, we're going to move on to general public comment. So far, we have 2 people that have submitted forms to speak. There's still time to speak if you wish. Forms at the back of the room. Please complete that and hand that to our clerk, Miss Ann Misha, at the end. So, first up, we have Miss Jamie Cross joining us from the Nelson neighborhood. Welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide remarks.
I'll try. So, good evening. I am actually going to talk about the 10-3 Adelaide Point public meeting. I appreciate Mayor Johnson, Commissioner St. Clair, and Gorman and Emery for being there. I want to say that I'm really disappointed in the city in the meeting. So it was a very thorough meeting about the marina at Adelaide Point that they own, the access points around that marina, and some discussion about the bike path. I am disappointed that there was very little discussion about the public property at Hartshorn that is part of the Adelaide Point Marina, or Adelaide Point Public Plan Unit Development. For example, no discussion about dinghies and where they're going to be stored, the people that use them to access their moored sailboats. No comment about the boat well that's being installed on public property that will be managed by Adelaide Point. Little discussion about the transient docks on the city property that are also to be managed by Adelaide Point. The only discussion about the public boat launch was when I brought it up to ask the question about a triaxle boat launch, which I've just learned about myself. But currently there is a biaxle boat launch, public boat launch at that location for people to use, and they use it. And so the triaxle brings in much bigger boats, and it's been a discussion. I don't see it on the permits, I don't see it on the planning, but it sounds like it's a part of the plan. And so the problem with that is it's bringing in bigger boats. Right now, that boat launch is used by small fishermen, recreation boats like pontoons. We're talking about cigar boats coming in. They're going to need bigger parking spaces for their trucks and for their trailers. And then recently, I don't know that you're aware, but there was a permit pulled by the city when it was learned that the whole parking lot for the other part of that public space would be removed as a way to move. Part of it was to move the bike path, but it would be removed and never replaced again. And it has where people park their boats or park their trailers and their trucks. And so also would be removed is a fishing spot, popular fishing spot for people with disability that use for disabilities. I can pull up, park, start fishing. That was not part of the Adelaide Point PUD, but it is part of the Hartshorn PUD, and those properties are intertwined. We're not hearing what's happening in those properties. I got an email from Leo because I asked about the parking spaces. Currently, there are estimated, and his was estimates, 35 truck trailer parking spots for the boat launch. After they remove the parking lot, and what they're going to do with Adelaide Point, there will be 12 spots. Bigger spots for bigger boats, 12 spots. I was down there one day, there were 13 truck trailers and 2 in the launch. You have got to do a better job of speaking to the community and engaging them in their public access points.
Thank you, Ms. Cross.
And I will say, the things that are happening between the giving away of the property next to the Shoreline Inn and the discussions about Fisherman's Landing for I don't know how many years, and still the community has not been talked to and sat down. We need to do better. So that was not a great meeting. So for an information meeting.
Indeed, and you and I have commiserated about that.
I know,
So,
and I appreciate your efforts.
so thank you, Ms. Cross. Next up, we have Ms. Vina Coleman joining us from the Jackson Hill neighborhood. Welcome. You have up to 3 minutes to provide remarks.
Probably not going to read all of this. But as I was coming from my meeting tonight, I was told that they do have plans now to tear down Freba School and build smaller homes or whatever they're going to build up there. I want to know, why weren't we notified? We need to be notified about every little thing that goes on in our neighborhood, whether y'all think so or not. We feel like, I remember one time one of the people in the city asked, why don't we trust the city? There's a lot of reasons we don't trust the city. We don't get notification. There are people who don't live in this town, who never grew up in this town, coming in here doing what they want. The town is being shaped to their needs, and the people who grew up here, were born here, were raised here, are getting pushed by the wayside. Just like with the public access to Muskegon Lake. There were points and times in my life where if I didn't have access to that water, I don't know what I would have done. And now I'm not going to be able to have access unless I get looked at funny. Look at that little strip that they gave us down there by that law office. I could fall in that water trying to walk up the thing to get to my public access. This has got to stop. I know and I do want Muskegon to grow. But don't forget the people that was there when this town was so-called nothing. Now that money is moving in, we're shaping to their needs. And guess what? When they get tired of this town and pull up and move on, we gonna still be here. Just like we always were. So put us in mind. Think about us when y'all start building and making plans and deciding, oh, yeah, she would like a whole ton of neighbors. Let's put a whole bunch of houses near her. Think about what we want. You know, like I told, I forgot which one of y'all I told. It ain't that we don't want houses built on Jackson Hill, but build accordingly. Don't come up there and build all them little micro teeny homes up there when that landscape is not like that. A lot of us on Jackson Hill have big old yards. We have room to grow. And we have our nature. I do not want my trees chopped down to look at somebody's roof and they tired face. I don't. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Appreciate you joining us tonight.
If you wish to speak on Frebo, I'm unaware of anything related to Frebo.
So, yeah. Yes, because I'm completely unaware of what you brought up with regard to Frebo.
Can I say something?
So
We do not have a development plan for the Frebo School property.
Okay.
What you may,
I'm gonna say this before you go on. Like I said, I know, I'm gonna tell you off the bat. Frebo School is dilapidated. I know that. That building is gonna eventually crumble in. I know development is gonna happen. But I think as our neighborhood, we should be notified, we should have input.
I totally agree. And there is no plan for development right at Frebo School right now. We do not have any person that's reached out to us with any kind of an agreement. What we did take some action on today was amending a brownfield plan that did include some potential costs for demolition and infrastructure in case that ever gets developed. But it's just a what if. There is no plan.
Right now, it's just a what if.
So I would encourage Ms. Coleman to confer with our staff after this meeting to get your questions answered. And same thing with Ms. Cross. I'm happy to chat with you after this meeting as well as make our staff available to address your questions. And I do anticipate that we will be accommodating in-person participation at City Hall, at the state, the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy public hearing on Adelaide Point's marina permitting, which is scheduled for 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. presently on Tuesday, October 18th. And I've asked staff to accommodate in-person participation for that because that is a virtual hearing. Not everyone has access to that virtual hearing, however, and so I would like for us to accommodate in-person participation here as well. And so both of your concerns are heard and valued and need to be addressed. And we will take that to heart as a commission as well as a staff. And thank you. Mr. Franzik, did you have anything else you wanted to add at this time?
No, I think the city manager answered it well. We don't have any plans to redevelop that as is. It's simply for a what if. Our goal now is to save it and get it redeveloped. In that case, they will have their own brownfield plan, and then we will have to take it out of that infill plan. If it does reach the point where we can't find anyone to develop it and it gets worse and it has to come down, the only other option we see would probably be to build some houses. Of course, those are not approved yet, and we of course would work with the community to do that. So we just came up with a figure of what it may look like, just so we're covered a few years down the line if it comes to that. But no concrete plans to even present you now. We'll definitely take input when that time comes, and we definitely would never make any move on taking down Frebel without community input.
Okay, well, in the meantime, in the springtime, those windows are up, and you know weather destroys the building, especially motion. Those windows are up on the wood side.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Coleman. I would encourage you to have that conversation post-meeting. It's not a forum right now.
Talk to you.
I appreciate your insights, though, and your care for your neighborhood and your community. I so appreciate you. You know it. All right. Commissioners, well, public, are there any other comments from the audience that you wish to share with the commission at this time? No? All right. Yes, welcome. If you could just come to the podium, provide your name. We do need an address shared. You don't have to share it publicly, but it needs to be shared privately. If you could just identify, what neighborhood, if you're in the city of Muskegon, or if you're not in the city of Muskegon, what community you are from.
My name is Gregory Wright, and from the Sheldon area. I live on Calvin Street.
Oh, I grew up on Calvin.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, welcome.
That's real nice. But my concern was basically I'm concerned about Creston Street itself from Apple Street to Evanston Street. It's getting raggedy, and I was wondering if y'all have any infrastructure plans concerning that, or any other street around Muskegon. And I'm just wondering, did we get anything from the federal infrastructure bill when it came through? Mm-hmm. Did we?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, that's probably why we ain't got nothing done around here. Okay.
We're working on it.
You are? But I'm just concerned about that particular area because it's getting pretty raggedy. Have y'all had any plans on repaving that or what have you? Anybody?
We actually just had a transportation asset management plan that was presented last night, and that was included for adoption in our consent agenda tonight. As I recall, the 3-year plan does not envision any reconstruction or repairs on that stretch of Creston at this time. But it does reflect the condition of it, so you can see what the condition of the road is according to the Payzer rating. But no, right now, to my knowledge, we do not have any plans for reconstruction of that section of the road within the next 3 years. I'm sorry, within the next 3 years. But that asset management plan gets updated. How frequently? Every couple years, every 3 years. So we'll be continuously looking at it, and if we can identify more resources, particularly from the feds, which we are very concertedly looking for those resources, if we can identify those resources and bring them to our community, that can help us add more projects and potentially get to your street sooner.
So this is kind of like down the road, but
yeah, there's nothing imminent planned right now for that stretch of Creston. Yes, thank you. Now we can look at patching or maintenance, but in terms of like overhauling at reconstruction, there's nothing scheduled in the near term. Yes.
Harvey, you're part of Muskegon?
Some sections of it, yes.
Yeah, but they just did that, right?
So I would encourage you to speak with our DPW director, Leo Evans, after this meeting. He has much better and more intimate knowledge of what projects we've done recently and what our plans are for projects going forward. Yeah, but thank you. I appreciate you joining us tonight, Mr. Wright. All right, anyone else in the audience wish to give public comment? No? All right, commissioners, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Hood, supported by Commissioner St. Clair to adjourn. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Ayes have it. We are adjourned. Thank you.